This segment is brought to you in part by Swimbaits Plus. Are you looking for that hard to find swim bait? Are you looking for that impossible rare color? Are you looking for great prices? Visit them on Instagram at Swimbaits Plus. Welcome to our Trophy Hunters segment. Today our guest is the owner of Irod Fishing. He's an original member of the Big Bass Posse, a rare blend of big bass hunter and successful tournament angler. You don't see that very often. Most of the time they're one or the other. Matt Newman. Matt, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for having me on. Stoked.
How do you respond to the notion that you were instrumental in creating the swim bait market that we all know and love today?
I've been asked that question before. I guess that we definitely had a play into it. I think that when you say me, I think that the power of the group of us was more instrumental. I think, yeah, we definitely did bring it to the limelight, I guess, and more to the bulk of the industry, especially the East Coast guys. But it was going to happen. If it wasn't us, it was going to be somebody else. It was going to happen right then.
Well, I would say, yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of parallels between, not comparing anybody here, but a lot of parallels to what Tony Hawk did with skateboarding and what the Big Bass Posse did for swimbait fishing. I mean, I think that's definitely.
Yeah, I think, yeah. We definitely gave it a different feel. You know, I think, before, when I was a kid getting into it, it was like the super locals that never wanted to talk to anybody. You were kind of scared of them. And you were always trying to hear, well, where was he? How did he catch those fish? You know, and you'd never hear a thing. And then when we got into it, you know, I came from surfing and Paul came from biking, and we all came from extreme sports of some type. And it came natural to make a video that kind of blended that feel. Of kind of the I'd say punk rock, with that kind of punk rock kind of blend into fishing. So it definitely made it look cooler.
Definitely. You know, I was just about to say that so many of the people, when I do this Trophy Hunter segment, so many of the people that I bring on this show, I mean, they're stealth and they're night and they're very quiet, and I have to pull information out of them. But the way that you guys and your group, I love the name Posse. I think that's a very appropriate way of describing what you guys were. I mean, that was just out there, and when you watch the video, you guys are having a great time with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was, I mean, it's still like that too. Up to the day I talked to the Baileys I've talked to Paul probably 3-4 times a day. And it's always about a new bite one of us are working on, whether it's down here or up there. We're still nerds of it. But yeah, we were having a good time, and it was fun because, you know, I think I kind of got the ball rolling in the beginning with it, and then, you know, right when I think, oh, it's kind of over, all of a sudden Paul would figure something out, and then Sean would figure something out, and it just kept going between the group of us, Justin and Dave and all of us. There was somebody with an open enough mind to figure out a new angle to it, which kept it going. So it did also make you realize that there's always a bite out there, right? When you think there isn't, they're just not feeding, there's a bite. And that's what kind of keeps me going nowadays is, you know, you haven't been bit in 2 days, and you're like, it's not, they're not feeding. We just haven't figured out the bait and the action today. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm just reacting to every word you say here because I mean, so much of this is stuff that we can all relate to. You know, I caught a big fish the other day throwing a rat on the bank. Who would have thought? I mean, it just didn't occur to me that the fish would be there. You know, so like you said, there's always something going. You just gotta spend the time and make it happen. So I want to talk now about this Big Bass Posse. I mean, first of all, this video has been around for many years. What year did it come out?
Oh man, that's a good question. 2000 maybe.
Yeah, right around that time.
Yeah, about 2000 or just before, perhaps. Yeah.
Okay, and yet when I found it on YouTube earlier in the week, that thing was only released on YouTube about 6 months ago. Is that right?
Yeah, we had it. Well, we had it. Obviously, it was onto a DVD, and then the guy who did it all for us kind of got into a different business, and we all just kind of moved, not say moved on, but we just moved on from the video. And I couldn't tell you over the last 20 years how many people have asked us, how can we buy more copies of it? But we just didn't have the ability. And finally, finally, we just got a copy of it, and we one of my computer friends figured out how to download it, so we just downloaded it for everybody to enjoy.
Oh, if people, if you don't know what we're talking about, you got to go onto YouTube. It's called Big Bass Posse, and it is, I don't know about what. Oh, but Big Bait Posse. I'm sorry, Big Bait Posse. All right.
It's on our YouTube, the Irod Fishing YouTube page.
Okay, then you do that. Go to Irod Fishing and click on that link and watch it. It is about, 45 minutes to an hour of nothing but wall-to-wall 10-pounders? I mean, were there anything less than 10 pounds in that video?
I don't think so. I think we had some ungodly number, too. At one point, someone did the math. It was 60 fish over 10 pounds in that video. And the cool part is we had that video pretty done. What month was it? It was probably by March or maybe even February of the year it came out. We were finished filming, and then we got onto a new bite, and that was more of that's when the Lunkapunker and the Rover and that bite was discovered, and the footage was so much better than some of the stuff we had. We got better equipment, we got better angles, we learned.
Yeah.
So we ended up pretty much re-editing the whole thing, and coming up with that. So there was a lot of clips that never made it, a lot of them.
It's just absolutely amazing footage. So let's get back, because I'm going in all directions right now. I'm trying to stick to my train of thought here. But what made you tie on a chunk of wood and throw that thing out there for bass? Had you seen it done before, or was that something that just came to mind?
No, it was, what kicked it off for me was in the mid 80s, Bob Krupe and those guys were catching those giant 22 pounders, basically, Cadota and Krupe. And that's where I started. I literally was dreaming about these fish. I mean, I was obsessed as a kid, obsessed. I would dream about them. And trying to think where I was going with that angle. Sorry. So then I paired up with Mike Breakbill, and we met and we started fishing a bunch. He runs RoboWorm, right? And we started fishing a bunch. And his team partner was Dana Rosen, and Mike was more of a competitive angler. Yeah, he still is an amazing competitive angler. His partner Dana Rosen was really the guy that broke the mold on swimming. He started it. I say started it. He was the one that really took it to tournaments. He was probably the very first one that brought it to tournaments. And he had caught a 62-pound limit for 6 fish. It was 60 something pounds for his 6 fish limit. So I saw that, and then I was spun at that point. So Mike paired me up with Dana, and he took me out. Our first trip out, he caught 2 10-pounders on these giant swim baits, and that was it. I didn't turn back. There was a period of time where I didn't fish anything else. Yeah. Probably 5 years. I stopped fishing tournaments. I just was so obsessed, and it was cool. When I say 5 years, it was 5 hardcore years of, that's when I had the ability to fish probably 5-6 days a week. Mm-hmm. And I learned so much, especially staying in California. So I learned a ton, and then I went back into tournaments, and you get blended in without having to go all or nothing. That live and die by the sword thing is pretty real. But if you're smart enough to kind of sense conditions and sense when to just put it down, you can actually do pretty successful in tournaments with a swim bait.
It's also pretty good if you got one guy that can fish one technique and lets the other guy go out there and throw the big stuff.
Stuff is awesome. I've gotten back into team tournaments. So I've never really got out of them, but I've gotten into them more in the last few years. And I have a team partner now, Brian Evans, and he's really wicked with everything. And when I say everything, like a jig or a worm or whatever the bite is. So I'm so comfortable sitting in the back of that boat with a swim bait now. Now he'll catch 5. I just got to enjoy myself and get one bite today, and it's nice. It's really good when you got a good partnership, when you really trust your partner. It's nice. Makes a difference.
Well, I tell you, from back in those days, you and whoever you fished with took plenty of my money. I knew that anytime I was going to Casitas to fish in a team tournament, we would be fishing, at best for, not first, because that was going to be your team that was going to win that. So one last thing about the Big Bait Posse and Mike Iaconelli. How did that all come together?
So let's see. Tom Leogrand, do you remember that name? He used to run Bass West with Mark Mendez. And so Tom was doing stories with Ike. And I think it was Tom that probably brought up what we were doing to Mike. So then that put us in touch. And Mike just put it bluntly. He said, if it ever gets good enough, call me. And literally that was, I got the go, like it was good enough. Yeah. And we had everything set up. And I called him at probably 5 o'clock, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5 o'clock West Coast time. Let's say it was a Tuesday afternoon. And I said, it's good. It's good. It's ready to go. And he goes, well, how many days next week? What day next week? And I said, this thing will be over tomorrow night. This great fight. He goes, oh my God. Okay. So he can't find a flight to LA. So he then finds a flight to Sacramento. And he says, if Ish picks me up and drives me down, do you have room for him? So I grabbed Sean, and they drove down, and literally the boats were idling on dock as they pulled up at 6 in the morning. And Ish jumped into Sean's boat and Mike into mine, and we had all the other boats for filming, and we charged at it. And that was the core day. We've stayed in touch ever since, but that day we had 18 swim bait fish.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. The new Frantic by Trophy Bass Baits is a 3-piece segmented glide style swim bait. They call it that because, well, it's frantic. Check them out by going to @SwimBaitsPlus. We are talking to Matt Newman. He's the owner of Irod Fishing. He's a big bass hunter from way back. And Matt, another episode that I saw on YouTube that I want to talk about, the Stoked on Fishing episode when you guys caught the 11-pound, 4-ounce spotted bass. Now that wasn't on swim bait. What brought you to that spot? Was that a spot you guys knew about, or is that something you saw on electronics? What pulled you to that particular spot? Because it didn't look like anything from what I was sitting.
No, well, obviously there was a tiny bit of history. So I used to go up to that lake. Well, I found that lake. I'll give you some history to make the story cool. I was doing a commercial up in Northern California, and the weather was so bad that they put us up in a hotel and said, just wait till it breaks. And it was like 4 days of rain. So I got onto, this is so long ago too, years and years ago. I got onto Google Maps and I found this lake in the hills near our hotel, kind of. And so I had my boat and we drove up there, and that's how we found the lake. There wasn't a single boat on the lake. There was no one at the gate. There was not one human being at that lake that day. We didn't know if it was illegal. We didn't know what we were doing. And it was right off the bat, 5-pound spotted bass. So we went back the next year, and they were 6-pounders. Went back the next year, they were 7-pounders. And then the next 2 years, I never made it up until that year when we were driving to Clear Lake. And I said to Shay, I said, right up there is bullers. And he said, and he goes, well, what's up there? And I go, well, there's some huge spotted bass. I said, hey, you never know, if we filmed a day up there, one of us might catch our personal best. And he says, really? And I go, maybe even a world record. Those are the words out of my mouth. So you can see when I was jumping up and down when I caught my fish, because I kept saying, I told you so, because I said I was going to catch my personal best, which I did. And then Paul went and caught everyone's personal best the next cast.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, you were saying, how do we get to that spot, that deal? So there's a lot of brush in that lake, a lot of tree stumps, and we're fishing a lot of finessier stuff. You're going to lose it, or open hook stuff. You just lose it real quick. So I think it was the trip before, or maybe even driving up there. I called it. I said, I'm just going to fish a shaky head. So I knew it was weedless. I'm fishing it on 15 pounds. I'm not going to lose one. And then the worm is a robo worm. I'm so bad with names. It's like the Aaron's Madness, I believe it is. And it's my favorite color. It's like a red with a blue bloodline in it.
Very familiar with it.
Yep, and I was set. I was set on, this is what I'm going to throw, and I think Paul started with it too. I think he thought, it looks good, let's try it, and it worked. Now the spot, we were catching some fish as we were working our way down, but the spot usually is a waterfall, and there's a beautiful bitchin' waterfall there. But this was in December, and we still hadn't had rain, so there was no waterfall at all. There was this little trickle. And I think actually it was, I used that as a target, and it was like this pea gravel, and I saw that, when I say a trickle, it was this wide of water coming down, and I just casted it was a Picasso shaky head, and I just casted it right on the pea gravel. It landed on the pea gravel, but it was pretty steep. So, each pull, I'm imagining each time I gave it the slightest tug, that thing would drop probably 3 feet. And the first pull, I felt it, and it just turned into that air bite. Yeah. And then obviously when I caught mine, then Paul switched and made the exact same cast. Onto the pea gravel, and you saw what happened.
I was about to say, you guys didn't just catch that 111 pounder. You guys had several big ones that day off that same spot, right?
Yeah, the show was edited a little differently than the format of how it happened, but I caught a 6. No, I caught that 8.5 pounder first, and then Paul caught that 11.6, whatever it was, and then after we settled down, I go, well, I'm gonna throw back in there again now. So now all the nerves are super high, we're all excited, and I throw in there, and everyone's just staring at me. Like, what do you feel? And I'm like, I don't feel anything yet. What do you feel? Everyone's so eager. It's just like, it's only been 2 seconds. And then it turned into that air thing, and I set the hook, and because I was so amped, it was a really good hook set, and the rod doubled, and I'm thinking, it's a 14 pounder. They keep getting bigger each time, right? Yeah. So my excitement was through the roof on that fish, but it turned out to be a 6.5. But I had these visions of this 15 pounder.
Now that's an episode of Stoked on Fishing, right? Okay, so and now, is that on the Irod website, or is that on just on YouTube?
It's on I think it's on the Stoked on Fishing site.
Okay.
Yep, on YouTube. So you go to the YouTube, and you probably just type in world record bass.
That's what I did. Yeah, world record spotted bass. Yeah. That's something that people are going to want to go take a look at. Is take a look at that episode, spotted bass, world record spotted bass, and you'll get to see that, because that was an amazing set of circumstances right there to have that happen.
It was surreal. That was, and then to go back, because we were filming this 4-day little trip, and from there to go up to Clear Lake, and then had probably one of the best afternoons I've ever had in Clear Lake, and I had I don't know how many, but I know at least 5 over 9.
Oh my gosh!
And they were all pretty quick too. It's all in that footage. It was all back to back to back. It was snowing. It was a special week.
That's amazing. So now, in your mind, what separates a trophy bass from the rest of the pack? Now, I've heard a lot of people that I've had on this segment have said that they tend to be lone wolves. They tend to be, just differently wired than regular bass. But here you're talking about 3 trophy-sized fish that were, I don't know, wolf pack?
Yeah, it depends on the time of year, I think, obviously. For the largemouth, I'm not a spotted bass guy. I fish them. I love fishing them, but I haven't studied it enough or spent enough time on spotted bass lakes to tell you their behavior. Uh-oh. Sorry, I lost you there. Hang on.
You still got us.
Okay, good. To see if they behave any different. But like largemouth, are you talking post spawn out in California? It's going to be like late June, July. They get into big wolfbacks, the big fish. Back when the lakes were really healthy with big fish, it wasn't uncommon to find a wolf pack of, I would say, maybe 20 to 30 fish over 10 pounds in these packs. So yeah, it's very, very common. And then during the pre-spawn, I guess it was common too. But it was a deeper bite. You're not seeing them anymore. You're graphing them and seeing there's a school of fish down there, and then you're starting to pluck them off with maybe a slow, deep grind, something like that. But they do hang together more than we realize. Maybe the summer they all do their own thing. I don't throw the swim baits a whole lot during like late August, during those real hot months. Some buzz baits and spooks do it. But I know pre-spawn, and they get in those pre-spawn spots, obviously, and post-spawn is big schools of giants.
I smell a rat. Do you want to get in on the rat swim bait craze? Check out You Dirty Rat by Trophy Bass Baits, available at Swim Baits Plus. Visit their Instagram account at Swim Baits Plus and find out what the noise is all about. We're talking today with Matt Newman. He's this is our trophy hunters segment. Matt has certainly got plenty of trophies. I want to talk to you now, Matt, about the forage that these fish eat. Now, I do not profess to know a lot about swim bait fishing and trophy-sized bass. I've caught 2 over 10 in my life, but I kind of think I lucked into those. But it occurs to me that when you're looking at the forage these fish eat, obviously trout's a big thing for the big fish, but they also eat other big creatures as well, right?
They'll eat anything. I think they eat anything. I've gone so many times to lakes, even back east, where I've gone to lakes where they've never seen a trout. They've never seen a trout, and they're eating my trout bait. And I don't think they're going, oh, finally, a trout. It's that'll fit in my mouth, and that's 5 meals in one right there, kind of thing. So bluegill. How many times have I've found it, or how many times have you seen videos of guys finding fish with bluegill or big bass in their mouths?
Yeah.
They're opportunistic feeders. I think they'll take anything. Big bass will, for sure. Big crawdads and lobsters.
I know that in the swim bait industry, customer goes into the store and he's looking for the trout pattern bait. And if the trout pattern bait is sold out, he's kind of bummed. But the way my mind thinks, if Fish and Game drop, I don't know, 300 pounds of trout in the lake, that's about 300 trout, right?
Yep.
So what happens to the other bass on the other side of the lake that never get to eat one of those 300 trout? They got to be eating something else big, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. I don't know what's going on at Casitas right now. So Casitas, we had a decline in the fishery. Obviously, they stopped planting trout, which killed us. That killed our trophy fishery. And then the lake had a drawdown. We had no brush. There was 0 structure left on the lake, and 12 pounds of winning tournaments. And after 30 years, it was really sad to see this. Then we had 2 years of rain. 2 years of rain where it flooded brush, and that lake is now kicking out 8-pounders that fast. So I'm very curious to see what next year is going to bring, as long as we keep this brush flooded. And there's talk. I've heard the talk before, but they're saying they're going to plant again. I doubt it'll ever be like it was back when I was growing up. It was one state plant every week, every other week. And then there was a private plant every other week. So every single week that lake received too much trout. So, but those fish are growing big on something than trout, because there isn't any in there. So very few. So I don't know, bluegill, baby bass. It's got to be that.
I was just say, the few swim bait fish that I've caught on bass pattern baits, and I think it doesn't have that much to do with the color of the pattern necessarily, more the action of the bait. But I've seen bass eat small bass, and so I know that happens.
Oh yeah.
And I know they eat bluegill because, like you said, we've all caught a bass that had a bluegill in its mouth, or we've seen that. So we know they eat those kinds of things. What other types of big forage? We got gizzard shad in, I want to say, Silverwood now. Have you had much experience with gizzard shad?
No, no, I haven't. I haven't had much experience with them. Hitch, there's a really cool thing. I've seen obviously Clear Lake, and I've also seen them in. It's on the tip of my tongue right now. Margarita, Santa Margarita.
Oh wow, okay.
I've seen Hitch in there, which explains the giants that lurk in that little puddle as well. Some really big fish. They don't plant trout, but there's some 12-pounders in there. So I've seen one hitch in that. I've heard stories, and I found one floating in that lake. But yeah, hitch. And going back to color, I've had these dares with my friends now, and I'm not a big color guy. I think that the trout pattern gets bit so well because it is the perfect fish, white bottom, darker top. You can get away with that any which way. But I've taken bright pink and bright, just the nastiest looking things. And I have this, I keep saying it, and I'm going to do it. I've said it on air even before. I guarantee I can catch a bass within a day or so on a Converse if I had to. I think it's the profile. The profile is the biggest thing for these guys.
I agree with that. I think that's right.
I'm into heavy. Get off the subject set. I'm heavily into tuna fishing right now, and we're playing with different baits for these jumbos. We're doing the same thing in the ocean right now, where we're breaking the tuna records every year, and we're using mackerel this big, and we're catching 100-pounders. And then you start bringing out flying fish. This is, you guys enjoy this. This is what we're using for these guys. And now we're catching, I don't know if you can see this bait.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is huge rubber flying fish.
Yeah.
And we're catching 400-pounders on these things now. And it's literally reminding me of the old HUD days with, seeing what you can trick with these things. But it's the same thing. It's still a swim bait that I get such a kick off of. So anyway,
that's exactly right. It's a swim bait.
Yeah.
Real quickly, pick your brain about rods right now. How many swim bait rods does Irod make? How many different models?
Ooh, that's a good question. We keep expanding every year. I would say close to 8.
Wow.
Yep. We've Paul Bailey has made. Well, I say when I started, I had some that I'd already worked with another company with, and we kind of brought those in. And then Paul Bailey kind of gave us a couple of great models. The Bailey Swim, which is probably the most universal big bait rod. It's good for HUDs all the way up to a depths 250. It really covers everything in swim baits. It's got a nice tip. Our most popular rod, if it's not that one, would then be the Junior Swim, which was made for like the 6-inch style baits, the full-bodied style. I get that question. One of the most popular questions is I want to get into swim baiting. Where should I start? And I always say, grab a 6-inch swim bait, whether it be a Huddleston or an Osprey, just a 6-inch bait, even a River to Sea or something like that. And a Junior Swim, you'll catch fish. It'll catch a 2-pounders. You might catch a 12-pounder, but you're going to get bit, and it'll give you that confidence and that, what I call it, that drive, I think, to say, well, what will an 8-inch catch?
Right.
And that's a really good way to get into it, because the 6-inch is a big enough profile that you'll get some big results as well.
I can vouch for that swim bait junior rod. I stole one from my son. He still doesn't know I have it, but I stole it from him, and I used it to throw a bluegill that I have that it's perfect for that. It's exactly perfect for that.
Yeah.
So now, last question, and I appreciate your time here today, but okay, you talked about Casitas in its glory days. Are there any lakes up and down the state or east and west? Are there any lakes that have the potential to do what Casitas did back in the glory days?
Oh, that's a good question. San Diego lakes, I don't fish, so I'm not an authority on what's going on down there. I hear mumblings, so some of those lakes down in San Diego County, perhaps. Up here, LA County and all that Central Cal, I know you can still catch 10s and 12s out of these lakes. Now you get into Northern Cal, I believe there's probably a handful of lakes up there that aren't your clear lakes and your big name lakes. There's a couple of mother lode lakes that I won't name, but there are some lakes that I've only spent a day or two on, that I've seen the potential, and I've heard it's probably going there too. And it just takes someone to put the time in, or the crew. I keep stressing the crews. I don't think one person can really do much damage on a bite. You get stuck on one thing too long and you miss the next day's deal. But and then Clear Lake, again, going back to Clear Lake, it's coming back really, really fast. It had its decline, that die-off we had about 4 years ago. And it's coming back faster than I ever imagined. And I would say this year we'll see some 15, 16 pounders again. And that lake 3 years ago, before the die-off, I could say on one spot they would be 200, 300 fish over 10 pounds just sitting on one spot. That's one spot.
Yeah, I can recall a BASS Elite Series event there that Steve Kennedy won. I mean, this was like from a different planet when those guys were catching that day.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it was. But you saw the other guys that were fishing jigs and worms during the event catching 12 pounds.
Yeah.
And then you're watching Steve and Swindle, watching him catch that 10 pounder.
Yeah.
The one eye. Oh man, right. I've watched that show a bunch.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you taking time with us today. This was a great opportunity to catch up again, and gosh, the information that you shared with us is just incredible. I see these younger anglers walking the the lakes at the park, and see them on the other lakes, and I think I know where this came from. I mean, I witnessed it. I saw what these guys were doing, and it's that's certainly something that I think it's got to be part of your legacy, and not just you, of course, but the other guys as well. Yeah. But it's an amazing legacy. Thanks for being with us today, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. See you guys.
Take it easy. Bye.